All I would say is you live in the age of information and technology. If you want to, first of all, a lot of the people that have a lot of money, what they don't have is a lot of time. And so you can do tons of research and you can learn how to find properties and how to do deals, and then find those people that are in your life that that have more money than time. And then the second piece of that is, for extra surety, mentors are worth their weight in gold. Consultancy is a cheat code. You look at these people and say, hey, if I can do for them something, like I can bring them deals or whatever, that education that you get from people that have walked that path that you're looking to do.
All right, welcome back to the Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast. I'm your host, Monte Reyment. Today, I got a special guest here, Jared Jones. He is out of California, and he is the co-founder of Middle Housing Partners, which is a California-based development firm focused on missing middle, infill housing, ADU, smallplex projects, and has 15 years of real estate development. His firm reports hundreds of permits pulled, units built across all of California. And Jared is also the founder of Power of Two Realty in Riverside and Corona area, with experience that includes hundreds of property flips, thousands of transactions. And you've been doing this since 20 years now, 2005, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Welcome aboard, Jared.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
I love it. So you're in the investing realm. That's how I got started. Really, I started as a real estate investor. I bought a duplex. I actually wholesaled a vacant lot just to get my feet wet, and then got into buying a duplex. And then I bought a flip where I lost a whole bunch of money. And then I realized, hey, I like this transactional stuff, and I like watching people on closing day and the emotional part of it. So that got me into more of the traditional real estate route. You're more in the development route, correct?
Yeah, today that's the case. Yep.
Yep, for sure. How did your journey begin? Where did real estate come into play for you in 2005?
Yeah, basically, I was in the middle of going to college and trying to figure out my path. I knew I wanted to be entrepreneurial. And my buddy told me that he was working for a guy that was 27 that was a lender and he was making 300 grand a year. I was like, that sounds like the job for me.
Yeah, I like
Uh,
that. That dollar amount sounds good.
yeah. And basically, what ended up happening is I got into lending, and right as that was the case, the market started shifting. And so I was cutting my teeth in the lending world. And as that market started to change, and I had started working with a lot of real estate agents, I was like, you know what? I'm pretty sure that I could do a good job at that. The lending part at that point for me was like pretty natural and easy. And so as the market started to shift and change, and I just started selling homes as well. And so by 2008, I was selling, flipping, and doing loans. And so that's what happened for me.
Yeah. So as you morphed from that traditional real estate agent into developing, what was it about investing that got you going versus just continuing to stay in that traditional route?
I would say that it was my second flip that kind of opened my eyes. I know there's a lot of flipper shows on TV that were hitting really strong at that point. And so I'm watching this and I'm like, oh, those guys don't seem that smart. I probably could do that. And as that was the case, I started getting into flipping. My second flip deal, my portion of the net, I partnered with somebody, but my portion of the net was like 128,500. And I won't forget that number because that was very meaningful to me at that time.
That's a lot of money.
And oh, for sure. But at that time, it might as well have been $1 million.
Yeah.
Like in 2008, 2009, like I made as much in one deal as I had made the previous year. And that's when I was like, hey, I think this is for me. I think I can do this.
Yeah.
And then basically, as that continued, like I saw that opportunity. And as I kept diving into it, I was just I had some aspirations as to what I wanted to achieve in life from a financial standpoint. And so, like, I was a couple years into my career when I hit my lifetime goal on what I thought was achievable from a financial standpoint on an annual basis. And so at that point, as okay, there's more to this. What I'm 27, 28 years old and making more money than I ever thought that I was going to make. And so then it's okay, what am I trying to accomplish here? And one of the things that I figured out was that the fundamentals are actually very basic, like understanding how not to lie to yourself on what something could be worth. There's a lot of different aspects that we have to consider when we're trying to buy and flip or buy and rent out properties. But what I loved about the opportunity is I live in a place where within 2 hours of me, there's 10 million housing units. And so or 7 million or something like that. But with 20 million people living so close to me, I'm like, the opportunity is endless in Southern California. And so, really, there's as much of this as I could ever need. So now I just need to decide, like, how much do I want to do? What's the lifestyle that I want to live? And so, from that perspective, I just started focusing on what was attractive to me and made a whole bunch of mistakes and just tried to learn every time I made the mistake.
Yeah. Now, positioning into this, you had your experience as a real estate agent, then into an investor. And flipping, I do a lot of flipping too. I have 10 going right now myself. So that was my transition from that, as I mentioned before. But I think the one thing is what makes, as a real estate agent, this is a path you can go down. So if you feel like you're stuck or you think you suck at real estate, I think one of the best things you can do is try to help a house flipper, because you're going to learn so much about that house and the housing industry in and of itself, and what contractors get paid, what they don't get paid. But what are the things that you look for with an investor friendly agent?
Yeah. So, from my perspective, like where I stand today, the agent needs to deeply know their market and have experience for me to even want to deal with them. And so today that looks a lot more transactional. Back in the day when I first started, anybody that was willing to throw me anything, I was just super excited to look at every deal. But now there's an agent that I actually do a lot of business with out in LA. Even though I can list my own property, she lists for me when I'm dealing in Pasadena in those markets. But I actually look at her in that market as superior to me in that product. And so I'm looking to somebody that when I ask them a question, they have answers that I'm not going to read on the internet, like that have actual insight behind them based off of a recent transaction. And if I push back with knowledge that I have, they're going to come back with their reasoning, or sometimes they're like, hey, actually, that's a great thought process. But a very collaborative, thought provoking relationship is what I'm looking for. But for the most part, that just comes from a lot of experience and actually dealing in the product type that you're trying to sell.
Yep. And I think too, for new agents that are getting involved, income is at a premium, right? Like when you start off in this 2005, it was different times, because in the lending world, they would just give you money for the sake of giving you money, and then that's why the crash happened, right? But
Yep.
as you get further along, I think the one thing I've learned is I use flips to supplement my income oftentimes, because I do like I'm the broker here, so I have 11 agents. I like watching them grow and improve and get better, but I'm sending them out. They're part of my team now. It's almost like an internship where they're going in, they're watching, and it's not like they're sitting at the house watching the contractor work all day. But my contractor is great about teaching them about the house and what needs to go on and how the projects are aligned. But how can investments be structured to attract higher quality clients for those agents, so they understand, hey, this is something to help supplement your income, but also it's a way to showcase your ability as well?
Yeah, I would say that's been a major portion of my value proposition to my clients. And I still have clients today. Real estate as as a listing agent or as a buyer's agent has basically gone to the wayside for me. But that doesn't mean we don't do it. It just means like it's not a focus for me anymore. But I have very loyal clients based off of the fact that I do have a much more in-depth understanding of what product we need to put out there to achieve top dollar, negotiation strategies and methods that I wouldn't have gotten if I didn't have the experience of negotiating for myself. And one of the powerful things at the table from an investment standpoint is being able to say, hey, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, I know what it feels like to have to cut my price because I just did it last week. Right. And so what I am recommending to you is the medicine that I eat myself. And so that kind of positioning where we get to be the guide through the process because we've walked the path before, that is very, very valuable when you're looking at competing against the average real estate agent. And then being able to walk through and be like, hey, I see what we got going on here. This house is a little ugly, fine, but it's going to cost us $4,200 to paint it. It's going to be $5,000 for your new countertops. Like going through and being able to say those things and understand and knowing that you have the resources to help them through that. One of the things that I have really learned very well is that thought process of being the guide to the person, and the guide is positioned as the one that helps you along the path, but they've, like I said, they've stepped in the hole before. But also, it's really about loss mitigation because people want to do whatever they can not to lose. Like people are very motivated by fear avoidance or like pain avoidance.
Yep.
And so, from that perspective, when they think about buying a house that needs a little renovation, and then you're confident on what it's going to cost and you have the person, you're helping them get what they want and avoid pain. So from that perspective, if you can be that person because you have the experience, your value, it's not the same. When I have beat a lot of people at the listing table based off of the fact that I'm like, that's true, that person will do it for 1% less, but also they get a practice at this way less than I do, and or I'm going to be able to help you get more because I'm going to be able to provide you additional value to your house on the market that they can't. And so those are important pieces for agents to consider, like why building that investment muscle can be super valuable to them as listing agents or as buyer's agents.
For sure. And we can take this conversation about 40 different ways from there
Yeah.
because, like, you start getting into the long term gains, short term gains. How do you make that decision for yourself on if you're going to keep something long term or if you're just going to flip it and move it?
That's a great question. And I think that if you asked me that 2 years ago, my answer would have been significantly different. We actually have recently made the decision that we are not going to flip at all anymore.
Okay.
And that's been a long time coming because the position that we are in now, we have the ability to make more money per transaction, per day, dollar, or yeah, dollar a day, time spent in general by going out and doing our small developments. And so from that perspective, it's become a distraction, even though it is a very financially viable distraction.
Sure.
It's giving away, like giving up 7 figures a year, trading it for multiple 7 figures. So we've finally gotten to that position. But at the time when I started, the way that I made the decision, if I wanted to keep a property or not, was will it be able to carry itself with no cash in? And is there any margin on top of the rents so that if crap hits the fan, that I'm in the position to cover any negative issues on that property with its own money?
Yeah.
And so if I cannot be into the property with any of my dollars by the time we're done, and I can have a buffer then I will hold that property. That's the way that I built my portfolio. And then if that wasn't the case, and then I could make like basically a 20% margin, dollars spent to what I
Mhm.
earn on the back end,
Yep.
that's when I would do the deal. And then even still, we did at the beginning, we don't have any properties where a 20% margin was only 20 grand because we didn't have any $100,000 properties.
Right.
But if that's a three or $400,000 property, that's $60,000 to $80,000 that I was making on a deal.
Hmm.
And so the high point, I probably flipped 50 homes in a year, was like about where I peaked. But there hasn't been a year where I hadn't flipped at least 10 properties since I started. And so but it's a end of an era for me.
Sure.
But it is the experience that I gained out of sales and flipping has put our company in the position that we're in today because we gained a lot of valuable knowledge that I would have a very difficult time doing what I do today if it wasn't for that experience.
Yeah, and I think that's the old classic Burr strategy. That's exactly what you're doing
Yep.
there. My brother's a big one with that too, and as am I. That's how I built I think my first, I want to say 15 deals, I had $0 out of my own pocket, whether that was keeping it as a long-term or short-term rental or converting it and then flipping it. But either way, I still had $0 out of my pocket. I take that back. Once I started going into short-term rentals, then I had some money out of pocket for furniture and other things like that. But that's really where that came in. Did you find yourself at this point, you're seasoned enough, but at what point did you find out you weren't your own worst client? Because I feel like there's times where I just do things as my own client where I'm like, what am I doing? Why would I would never tell somebody to do that? Have you ever had that situation for yourself?
I've made a lot of mistakes out of neglect,
Mhm.
like from a perspective of my jobs take too long because the painter's house never gets painted.
Yeah.
Like I had a client that needed something else, so I pulled him off the job for the day or a week. And I would say that was probably more of my struggle, which is one of the major reasons that we're offboarding flipping as a business as well. But yeah, I don't know. I would say that I am my own worst client and best client, right? Like I
Yeah.
create the most business for
Yeah,
me.
that's
At the
true.
same time, a lot of our deals, even in the development sector, unless I have a partner on the deal, like it doesn't carry the same urgency. Once I start bringing in capital, then it's yeah, all hands on deck. We're moving quick. But so that's been my struggle.
Yeah. Now, when we go back to the agent aspect of it, I'm a big believer in owning your own, at least owning your own house. If you're going to be a real estate agent, you should probably at least own real estate as an agent, unless you're young, getting started at what well, I started at 38, so I already had owned my two houses at that point. But somebody who's in their early 20s, I have a girl who just graduated from high school. She's not going to be able to buy a house yet, so her goal certainly is to buy a house. But why do so many agents struggle to invest into their own investing business?
That's a loaded question, and it leans directly into what I love, and that is housing is not what it once used or what it once was,
Yep.
right? And so the economics of housing no longer makes sense for the workforce. And so if you're a starting agent and you're 2 years in and you're making $120,000 a year because you're killing it, like in our market, you still need to make another $60,000 to $70,000 a year to buy the median priced house.
Wow.
So in our market, you have to make 200 grand a year to buy a 1,200 square foot house. And I'm in Riverside. Like that is hour in from the coast. So we're not in the very expensive market. We're just relatively expensive.
Right.
So I can't speak to all of the markets in the nation, but I know that the housing shortage is a major part of that. So I don't know a lot of agents around here that make the money and are not choosing to buy a house. I think that does exist in some markets, and I don't understand that personally. I
Sure.
like that perspective, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But the perspective of being very successful as an agent and not being able to buy a house, that's actually a thing here. So that's a major portion of our mission with what we do is helping workforce obtain housing.
So yeah, go into that a little bit because we see a little bit of that here. I'm in Green Bay, so it's not the average median house here in the county that I live in is about 400,000. That's not even close to a starter house. I'm assuming by where you're at.
Yeah, so basically, about 5 years ago, the laws started really changing, shifting hard here. In California, single family zoning doesn't really exist anymore. It's been done away with in the last 5 years slowly. And so 5 years ago, they created state mandated ADU laws. And for those of your listeners that don't know what an ADU is, accessory dwelling unit, which is a second unit on an existing single family or multifamily lot. They allowed you to have two kinds of ADUs, an ADU and a junior ADU, which was restricted to 500 square feet. And so I was just looking at my own investment properties. Shoot, this is cool. I can convert a garage and a bonus room. And now I've got three rentals on a single family property. We did that on one of my properties and we did it on another. And next thing we know, I had called up a whole bunch of my investor buddies that we had moved their properties out of state and started helping them do it. So as a real estate agent, I'm selling their house out of state through a referral. I'm bringing their money in, transacting, and then I'm managing the property after we construct. After we were a couple hundred units into that process, we stepped back and were like, oh, shoot, this is a much bigger thing than we thought. And then the laws kept morphing along with it. And so we essentially brought design in house. So we have architects and engineers that work for us full time and partner in that business. We have a construction company that builds all of these units that we're building. And then we have a property management company. And then about 2 years ago, we started down the process and now run a private equity firm that finances all of these projects for us to partner with. And so now every time we build something, we get paid to do it, but then we also have ownership on the back end. So that's been a really cool process. But the kind of housing that we get to build now is all separately sellable. So we take a single family, we add 3 units or 10 units to that property, and we're able to sell those to people individually. And right now, if you look at what gets created, at least in California, is it's 200, 400 unit tract homes. And because of the way that works and the length of time that it takes, you end up in a position where none of those are cheap. They have to build luxury product. And that's what's been happening for 20 to 30 years here. This gives you the opportunity to say, hey, grandma and grandpa, great grandma and grandpa, when they got out of the war, right, they were moving into these 1,100, 1,200, 1,400 square foot houses, and they could afford those. And every person that had a job could afford a house. That's the kind of housing that we get to build now, is workforce housing by leveraging these laws that have been created to build that kind of product. And so our company just specifically specializes in that. We do not build any luxury homes. All of our product is duplex, triplex, small single family. So that's the kind of product that we're out building every day. And the fundamentals of real estate investing is really what put us in the position to leverage into that.
Love it. So, what is the percentage, so to speak, of the cost for a workforce? Like a family home might be a single family home might be $1 million, right? But then,
Yeah.
what is that for somebody who's working a regular job? Let's say they
So
make $30 or $40 an hour.
yeah, for sure. So what I have a great example right now of that product. And so we have a property that we're building three bedrooms additional on that lot. And on the right hand side, 3 bedroom, 2 bath property, a little bit bigger, just sold for 700 grand. We just created one of our larger 3 bedroom, 2 baths on that lot. Next door, same neighborhood, like same schools. And actually, our lot is significantly bigger. And so basically, the portion of the lot that this house sits on is about the same as the house that just sold for 700 grand. And we would be able to put that on the market and resell it. Like, we're not reselling this unit, but if we were, it would be like 5.25 instead of $700,000. So that $175,000 gap is the difference between somebody making $170,000 or $180,000 a year being able to afford, and then $120,000 a year. And then on the same lot, we have a smaller 3-bedroom, 2-bath that we built. That one would sell for 4.25. And so that 4.25 unit, now you can make two people can make minimum wage in California and buy that house. And so that's pretty magic for us to be able to put that kind of product into the market. That's what it looks like.
I love it. I love it. That's phenomenal. So you've basically gotten creative. You're making the changes yourself and taking the forefront on these, which is amazing. For those out there who are in a position, and this is the Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast, I think this is an amazing place to wrap up. But Jared, what's the best advice you can give somebody getting in who maybe wants to, instead of like just be a real estate agent, but also be a real estate agent who also invests? What's the best advice you can give them?
All I would say is you live in the age of information and technology. If you want to, first of all, a lot of the people that have a lot of money, what they don't have is a lot of time. And so you can do tons of research and you can learn how to find properties and how to do deals, and then find those people that are in your life that have more money than time. And then the second piece of that is, for extra surety, mentors are worth their weight in gold. Consultancy is a cheat code. You look at these people and say, hey, if I can do for them something, like I can bring them deals or whatever, that education that you get from people that have walked that path that you're looking to do or to walk, it's worth every penny that you will pay them. And real estate has been very kind to me. I have learned a lot of really great things, and it's changed my life. It has changed hundreds of people's lives around me. And no matter what happens with AI, no matter what happens with any of these other things out there, people need a place to live. It is a fundamental need. And if you can help people meet their fundamental needs and reduce their pain, you will be successful.
Yep. I love it. Thank you so much, Jared, for coming on the Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast. That was outstanding. So much good knowledge, and it's a different take than our normal ones where we're talking about agent behaviors. This is more of a lifestyle and a different way about doing business, and also like a graduation from being a real estate agent into some other things. Appreciate you coming on, man. Where can they find you if they want to see more about you, find out more about you? Where can somebody find you?
Yeah, on LinkedIn, Jared Jones, or in Middle Housing Partners is our company, or on Instagram is Middle Housing Partners. That's where we do our stuff.
Love it, man. Appreciate you, and thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Talk to you soon.
So that's a wrap here on the Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast. Thank you so much for spending time with me and our guests. The people you hear on the show really aren't guessing. They've been doing the work. They've been doing it for a long time. They're sharing their behaviors, their habits, their successes, their systems that actually lead to real work, real success. So please subscribe and follow so you don't miss the next conversation. Until next time, remember, you don't suck. You're learning. It's the beginning, or maybe you're in a rut, but you don't suck. So make a few changes, stay curious, stay consistent, and please keep coming back.